What's your first blush thoughts on Harden being acquired by the Clippers and what it means here? What do you think?
Surprised just because of, Rich, you've been around this enough to know that when a lot of noise is happening around a potential trade or a move or a free agent move or whatever it may be, sometimes it doesn't facilitate. But I thought that these conversations, that it wasn't a lot of intrigue from a bunch of teams. And I understood kind of where it's twofold because of where the Clippers were currently sitting with their roster construction and where they needed to go to thin out their forward position a little bit more because they were really deep at the forward position. Through a trade, it would be one way to thin that out so the players that were in that position would understand exactly how much time they were playing, who they were playing, and things like that. So am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised. And also the timing, because one, Philly had to get this done. They wanted to get this out of the way so they could, at the beginning of the season, figure out who they're going to be as a team and be settled. And it's the same way for the Clippers, because if you get a James Harden right now you're able to integrate him at the beginning of the season, get him in, and allow him to work into the culture, the system, to help benefit for later on when you're talking about making the playoffs.
So how does it work on the court? What do you think Ty Lue's going to do here with all these stars and sharing a basketball?
Well, and that's the beauty. Well, but that's the beauty about Ty Lue. It's not just Ty, but it's the players' acceptance. The funny part is people want to win a championship. We always want to win a championship. Guys will say that all the time. But then it's a contingent upon, well, I want to win it this way. How does it help me? And I think if everybody's on the same page in regards to working together, that this could be something. If James has the mindset that he did when he went to Brooklyn, where he was a facilitator, that he understood that Kyrie and KD would be the main scoring options, and then when they weren't on the court, he could be that second scoring option. If he has that mindset coming in, I think that he'll be able to integrate himself into what the Clippers want to do rather seamlessly, because you have two willing participants in Paul George and also Kawhi Leonard, who are on the same path of ultimately winning a championship or getting to a championship. So a lot depends on, one, I trust Ty Lue and the coaching staff in regards to game planning like that. But more importantly, what you have to trust is those 12 to 15 individuals that accept what's going on and kind of integrate James himself that way too.
Can you help me about who James Harden is? Because he doesn't come on shows like these. He just doesn't really make himself available very often outside of what obligations are. Because this is the latest example of him not being happy in a spot that he, forced his way to. I mean, it's just the number of times that he has gotten his way by getting his way out of places that he wanted to get his way to originally. I've kind of lost track. Can you help me about who he is, Jim?
That's a difficult question, because James has never been one to kind of share his insights personally in a meaningful manner. Because what I'm saying is this, is that we know who LeBron is because we've been able to interview. He's been able to talk through things, even when he went from Cleveland to Miami back to Cleveland to the Lakers. He kind of shared the insight, and we knew and understood who LeBron was. Steph Curry's the same way. Giannis is the same way. James has never been that person who's gone deep into why, the reason he thinks that he does. He'll give us surface answers, so to speak, and then it's left up to us to interpret what that means by his action. And what I try to stray from a lot of times, Rich, is trying to figure out the intent of an individual player, because I don't know the intent unless they allow that to be described by what they say. We can only read the tea leaves and what's happened in the past and kind of follow that pattern and develop some sense of, okay, this is who James Harden is. And we may be 100% right. We may be 100% wrong. We may be 50% right. We don't know. And that's the challenge here when you try to evaluate a player like James Harden that really hasn't shared his full insights onto how he thinks, why he thinks, and what pushes him to a situation where he thinks may be comfortable. But then, now, was Brooklyn totally his doing? I'm not going to say it was.
Right.
How he handled it, maybe. but the situation dictated that he wanted something else, whether we like it or not. In that situation, now the Philly thing is totally different with him and Morey. That whole thing one day will come out to light exactly what the promises were made, but it's tough to judge someone's intent when they're not fully open with you.
Right, and I just want to be fair here, because just to mix sports here, Jim Jackson here on the Rich Eisen Show. You know, I was talking about Devontae Adams before, and how Adams goes from Green Bay to Vegas. He kind of wanted out of Green Bay, and he was accommodated in a way that's rare for an NFL player, but very commonplace for an NBA player of a certain stature. Again, Harden being the example. And how now he's in a new spot and things have changed to the point where I wouldn't blame him for wanting to get out. And that may be the case for Harden as well, but it's happened over and over and over again, which is why I ask you about who is he? And so my question is, like, why wouldn't this happen with the Clippers eventually, right? Like, why won't Ballmer and this front office be in the same position that Philly found itself in, and Houston found itself in, and Oklahoma City found itself in? Like, why not? You know, that's the question I've got.
If I'm not mistaken, I think his contract is up after this year. So from a leverage perspective, he doesn't have the same kind of leverage. Because if you think about the Clippers roster right now and contractually where they're at, Kawhi and Paul signed their extensions, I think 2019, so they're up. Russ is on a one-year deal. You have Harden coming in now looking to be re-signed. So you don't have the same kind of leverage and pull you do if you're in a multi-year contract, which he was in before. Okay, so you got to look at things a little bit different. This will give the Clippers time to evaluate not just James, but their entire roster on where they go, because this is a critical transition stage for the Clippers. Because being relevant means you have to win. Winning means you're going into a new arena, a new climate, a new atmosphere in 2024-25, and you want to have momentum when you come in. Steve Ballmer was all about spending the money, as we see, ensuring that the players have the best facilities, practice, training, whatever it is, to win. Now it's upon the players, incumbent upon the players, to do their part. Now, does that necessarily mean that you're going to win a championship? No. We've seen it in the past. It's too many variables that happen within the course of the year that could sidetrack you, whether that's injuries or unhappiness, whatever it is, even though the roster says that you should be in the championship. But the evaluation process, I think, is going to be very critical this year for the Clippers and what they do in the future, who they retain, who they bring back, how they build out that franchise. So I think this is a different scenario in regards to the evaluation process from the Clippers' perspective, but more importantly from James Harden's perspective. Because when you're not guaranteed next year, it's a little bit differently on how you evaluate your current situation and how you respond.
Interesting. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.